In the early 1980s, Swatch, the watch company, decided to create a car called the Swatchmobile, a city car. After reaching out to a number of different manufacturers, Mercedes finally picked them up, and they created this 8-foot-long car called the Smart Car. The name Smart actually has nothing to do with being smart or stupid. It actually is a combination of Swatch, Mercedes, and get this, art. They considered this car art. Smart was aiming for a lot with this logo. This actually means something. The C means compact, and this little arrow here means forward thinking. The back hatch area is actually not that bad as far as storage, considering the size of the car. If you click this little guy here, you open the glass portion of the hatch, then you have a little nub here and here that releases the lower part of the hatch. Then here you have additional storage. You can fit many pieces of paper, a manila envelope maybe. The owner of this car happened to mention that the vents on the back here used to dissipate heat off the engine caused a little bit of an issue when he used his bumper bully guard. They actually covered the vents and he started smelling something when he was in traffic for a little bit. So word to the wise, if you have a smart car, no bumper bully guard. The first thing I noticed when I saw this car, which I found absolutely hilarious, is the size of the doors. The doors are 4 feet long, and the car is only 8 feet long, so half the size of the car is the door, which is actually pretty nice, being very functional. As small as the car is, it's not hard to get in and out of the car. Look how huge this thing is. The interior is sufficient for the size of it. I wouldn't consider any of this art, but it is functional, and that I can appreciate. It is nice that they managed to shove all of their air controls into a small space, while not being impossible to figure out. The heads-up display, which I forgot to power on while filming this, is simple. You'll know how fast you're going if you're sliding or if your blinker is on, but the lack of a tachometer is always a letdown for me. The stereo is very plain looking for 2015, with a little drawer below, which you can see holds one business card very well. The only upfront storage really is this glove box, besides a tiny compartment on the door, but you already assumed you were going to be traveling light when you bought this. The addition of a glass roof is a good touch since it opens up the interior a bit and helps you feel less cramped. Still, no art in here, but not bad either. I find the key being in the middle a weird touch, but it's also pretty loud when you start it. This is actually one of the shortest cars on the market, or I think the shortest car on the market, excluding the Peel P50, so let's not put that out there as an option. It's also pretty comfortable. I actually feel like I'm driving a normal sized car when I'm looking out this windshield. It's only until you look back that you go, oh, it's short. The engine is a little 3-cylinder that produces 70 horsepower. This is not exactly meant to propel you through space and time quickly, but it does a pretty good job considering the size. What more could you ask for this thing? I'm about to get on a highway, so wish me luck. The transmission does feel a little awkward. Wow, that actually picks up pretty well. The transmission shifts like a manual. And I know that the earlier models had a manumatic, a semi-manual, where it'll do kind of an automatic clutching. You know, there's a delay between gear shifts that is more than noticeable. Let's see. 1, 2. It's about a 2-second delay between gear shifts. That's a bit dramatic for an automatic car. You really feel it working behind the scenes, which is pretty odd. I would really question trying to quickly make a maneuver with this thing if you're going to wait on the transmission, because that is a very long shift. Now the brakes, and amazingly, are just the weirdest feeling thing I've put my foot on. This bottom up brake pedal just feels awkward. You get the first, more than half of the first press of it, it's just a big squishy mess. And then finally, when you get your foot down there, it doesn't start to stop for you. The road noise is apparent. This thing's shaped like a refrigerator in the sense that the wind is just slapping right on the front of it. It is loud. The interior sound of this thing. Make sure you got the radio on. The ride quality is a bit questionable. It's a bit harder on the bumps than I would have anticipated. I don't know why I wouldn't have anticipated that. The tires are the size of golf balls. A small car, you hit a bump, you're gonna feel it. Oh my God, there's a bump. Oh. That's not comfortable. Oh. Just don't hit bumps and you'll be fine. I can't imagine getting into an accident in this thing. This thing is one solid piece of construction, which is pretty nice. So the car itself will be fine as far as the overall shell. How the human will survive in it, that's questionable. I'm not attempting to handle this thing in a way that would be aggressive, because I don't trust what would happen to it as far as a rollover or something twitchy. Overall, it's a fun car to drive. I wouldn't say it's not fun. It really does have its purpose if you need a car like this. Realistically, this car new is too much money. It costs way too much to justify you buying it, but for a used car price, these things dramatically dropped in value. The gentleman who bought it lives in Queens and needs to park in Queens, so that makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, I can't really see this as a daily driver for anybody that needs a practical car. It's practical if you need a small space saver and you're in the city a lot, a quick get up and go kind of car that uses a good amount of gas. Because a small car like this, when I first saw it, I assumed 80 miles to the gallon, 90 miles to the gallon. To hear 34 miles to the gallon was not very impressive. I was expecting a lot more out of this car initially. For the price, asking price of 15 grand, I would never do that. But for the used price of $5,000 to $7,000, again, if it fits your means of living, it would be a worthwhile contender as a car. For me, I'm okay. Not a bad drive. I would give it a couple of numbers out of 10. A recent recall for 2008 and 2009 models has just been in the news. The rear insulation mat shown in this clip can deform and catch fire, which affects almost 43,000 cars. So if you're a lucky owner, I suggest taking that insulation mat out altogether. The 2018 models will be all electric and cost about 10 grand more, so all of this just became a lot harder to justify. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. I imagine the jack has to be the size of a thimble. You know what I mean? Yeah.